The 1970s brought bold designs and big ambitions, but not every car lived up to the hype. Some coupes from this era turned heads for all the wrong reasons, plagued by poor performance, unreliable engineering, or outright strange styling. Here are the 13 worst killer coupes of the 1970s. Cars so bad you won't believe they ever hit the road. The Fiat 128 3-P Coupe, introduced in 1975 as a sporty offshoot of the popular Fiat 128, carried with it the promise of Italian flair and affordability. Designed to cater to younger drivers seeking an attractive yet practical coupe, the 3P, short for Tre Port, or three doors in Italian, boasted an appealing fastback design, compact dimensions, and the 3P mechanical underpinnings of the innovative Fiat 128. However, what seemed promising on paper turned into a cautionary tale of poor execution and reliability woes, earning the 3P a dubious place in Fiat's history. The 128th platform, introduced in the late 1960s, was revolutionary for its time. It featured a transverse engine layout, independent suspension, and front-wheel drive, mechanical innovations that later influenced many modern compact cars. Fiat aimed to adapt this platform into a sportier package with the 3P Coupe, targeting young urbanites who wanted style and performance without breaking the bank. The 3P's design delivered on style. Its sloping roofline and sharp lines made it stand out in a sea of boxy compact cars. The coupe's sporty aesthetic, however, was where its success began and ended. Mechanically, the 128 3P inherited the same engines and layout as the standard Fiat 128. Available with 1.1 or 1.3-liter four-cylinder engines, the car offered decent performance for a lightweight compact, with nimble handling due to its independent suspension system. However, even at launch, it failed to stand out against rivals. Competitors like the Volkswagen Scirocco or even the Alfa Romeo Alfa Sud Sprint provided a more engaging driving experience with better refinement. The 3P's performance was sufficient for its segment, but hardly thrilling, making it a sporty car more in appearance than substance. One of the car's most glaring problems was its build quality. Rust, a common ailment of 1970s Fiats, was particularly devastating for the 128 3P Coupe. Structural corrosion often started alarmingly early, with wheel arches, floors, and even suspension components succumbing to rust in wet climates. For many owners, rust-proofing became a necessary aftermarket investment to prolong the car's life. Reliability issues compounded the car's reputation. Owners frequently reported engine overheating, electrical system failures, and transmission problems. The cooling system struggled in warmer climates, while the ignition system's erratic performance left many owners stranded unexpectedly. Build inconsistencies meant some 3Ps rolled off the production line with mechanical flaws that would reveal themselves in frustrating ways. Fiat's spotty dealer network at the time often failed to address these problems effectively, further alienating customers. Safety, another growing concern in the 1970s, was another weak spot for the 128 3P Coupe. Its lightweight construction, while beneficial for fuel economy and handling, offered little protection in a crash. Thin body panels and minimal safety reinforcement made the car vulnerable in collisions, earning it subpar safety ratings compared to its contemporaries. As safety regulations tightened, the 3P felt increasingly outdated in this regard. Despite its many flaws, the Fiat 128 3P Coupe wasn't without its fans. Its compact size, affordability, and charismatic design appealed to young buyers, especially in Mediterranean markets where its quirks were often tolerated as part of the Italian car experience. For those willing to overlook its deficiencies, the 3P offered an accessible entry point into coupe ownership. However, for the majority of buyers, the car's charm wore off as its mechanical and structural issues began to surface. By 1980, Fiat phased out the 128 3P Coupe, and with it, the 128 family as a whole, replacing the lineup with the more modern Fiat Ritmo, or Fiat Strada in some markets. The 3P's brief production run left behind a mixed legacy. It was a car with good intentions, but poor execution. It demonstrated Fiat's ability to design stylish, innovative vehicles while underscoring the company's persistent struggles with quality control and reliability. Today, surviving examples of the Fiat 128 3P Coupe are rare, with most long since succumbing to rust and neglect. However, for enthusiasts of quirky, underappreciated classics, the 3P holds a certain nostalgic allure. Its sharp styling and connection to Fiat's revolutionary 128 platform make it an interesting footnote in automotive history. A car that was perhaps ahead of its time in design, but far behind in execution. The 3P Coupe stands as both a cautionary tale and a reminder of the challenges Fiat faced in balancing innovation with reliability. The Mazda RX-5 Cosmo, produced from 1975 to 1981, was Mazda's ambitious attempt to blend rotary engine innovation with luxury coupe sophistication. Designed to appeal to an upscale market, it was part of Mazda's broader strategy to elevate the rotary engine from a technological curiosity to a central feature of their brand. With sleek styling, a plush interior, and the promise of futuristic performance, the RX-5, known in some markets simply as the Mazda Cosmo or Mazda 121, seemed poised to be a hit. However, reality painted a far less flattering picture. The RX-5 was powered by Mazda's renowned Wankel rotary engine, available in both 12ARI and 13B configurations depending on the market and trim level. While rotary engines were celebrated for their compact size, smooth operation, and high-revving nature, they also came with inherent drawbacks, many of which plagued the RX-5. Chief among these issues were poor reliability and excessive fuel consumption. The rotary engine's thirst for fuel, coupled with rising gasoline prices during the 1970s oil crisis, made the RX-5 an increasingly impractical choice for buyers. Its fuel economy was abysmal, even by the standards of its time, with some drivers reporting less than 15 miles per gallon in real-world driving conditions. Performance, another selling point of rotary-powered Mazdas, was underwhelming in the RX-5. Despite its innovative engine, the car's weight, tipping the scales at nearly 3,000 pounds in some configurations, blunted acceleration and agility. Mazda marketed the RX-5 as a personal luxury coupe, emphasizing comfort over outright speed. But this positioning left it in an awkward niche. It lacked the sportiness of smaller rotary models like the RX-3 or RX-7, while failing to match the refinement and prestige of true luxury coupes from rivals like Mercedes-Benz or BMW. The car's styling was another polarizing aspect. While some admired its sharp, wedge-like profile and distinctive rotary badge, others found its proportions awkward, particularly the overly long nose and somewhat bulbous rear end. In an era of increasingly angular and modern designs, the RX-5's aesthetics felt caught between the past and the future. Furthermore, the interior, while well appointed with features like plush seating and advanced electronics for the time, suffered from dated materials and occasional quality control issues. Reliability concerns further tarnished the RX-5's reputation. The rotary engine, though mechanically simple in theory, required meticulous maintenance and had a reputation for apex seal failures, which could lead to expensive repairs or even complete engine replacements. For buyers unfamiliar with the quirks of rotary engines, these problems often came as an unpleasant surprise. Compounding this was the car's complexity. Advanced features like power windows and air conditioning frequently malfunctioned, adding to ownership frustrations. The RX-5 also struggled to find a clear identity in the market. It was positioned as a luxurious grand tourer, but its relatively cramped interior, harsh rotary engine noise, and lack of rear-wheel drive dynamics made it an unconvincing contender in this segment. Meanwhile, sporty coupe buyers were drawn to Mazda's more agile and affordable RX-3 or the soon-to-be-released RX-7, both of which offered a more engaging driving experience without the RX-5's compromises. Sales of the RX-5 were disappointing, particularly in export markets like the United States, where it was initially marketed as the Mazda Cosmo. Buyers in the US, accustomed to large V8-powered coupes, found the rotary engine's quirks baffling, and the car's high price tag made it an unappealing alternative to domestic muscle cars or European imports. Even in Japan, where the RX-5 was available with a broader range of options, it struggled to gain traction as Mazda's larger sedans overshadowed it in practicality and price. By 1981, Mazda quietly discontinued the RX-5, pivoting its rotary ambitions toward the wildly successful RX-7, which became the brand's defining rotary-powered sports car. The RX-5, in contrast, faded into obscurity, remembered mostly as an overcomplicated and underwhelming misstep during a challenging era for automakers. Today, the RX-5 is a rare sight, with its survival rates impacted by rust, neglect, and the high cost of maintaining its rotary engine. Among rotary enthusiasts, it holds some appeal as an oddity, a luxurious grand tourer with the heart of an unconventional sports car. However, for most collectors, it serves as a cautionary tale about the challenges of blending cutting-edge technology with mainstream appeal, especially during a time of economic and environmental upheaval. The RX-5 stands as a symbol of Mazda's rotary ambitions, both their highs and their inevitable lows. The Lotus Elite, produced between 1974 and 1982, represented an ambitious but deeply flawed chapter in the storied British automaker's history. Lotus, known for its lightweight, high-performance sports cars, took a bold step with the Elite by attempting to create a luxury-oriented coupe. Designed under the guidance of Colin Chapman, the Elite aimed to combine Lotus's hallmark engineering prowess with a touch of sophistication. Unfortunately, the result fell short in nearly every critical area, leaving it one of the company's most troubled efforts. The Elite's design was undeniably distinctive. It featured a shooting brake silhouette with a long, sloping rear hatch, an unusual choice in an era dominated by conventional coupes. While some admired its futuristic aesthetic, others found it polarizing and ungainly. The fiberglass body, a hallmark of Lotus vehicles, was designed to save weight, but it proved problematic. Many Elites suffered from poor panel alignment, cracking, and delamination over time, undermining the car's supposed luxury appeal. Under the hood, the Elite was powered by Lotus's 2.0-liter or 2.2-liter DOHC inline-four engine, depending on the model year. While these engines were capable of decent power output, around 140 to 160 horsepower, they were notoriously unreliable. Oil leaks, overheating, and premature wear were common complaints. Combined with the car's high-strung nature, routine maintenance often escalated into costly and frequent repairs, frustrating owners. The drivetrain also included an optional automatic transmission, which felt out of place in a Lotus and further dulled the driving experience. Perhaps most surprising for a Lotus, handling was not the Elite's strong suit. Despite the car's low weight and rear-wheel drive layout, it felt cumbersome compared to the brand's more agile offerings. The suspension, while advanced on paper, failed to deliver the sharp and responsive dynamics expected from a Lotus. Critics at the time noted that the car's ride quality leaned more toward comfort than precision, but it didn't excel in either domain. The Elite's interior was another point of contention. While it boasted leather upholstery, wood trim, and other features intended to convey luxury, the build quality was poor. Switchgear frequently broke, and the cabin was prone to rattles and leaks. Lotus's decision to integrate numerous advanced electronics into the car backfired spectacularly, as electrical gremlins plagued the Elite throughout its production run. From malfunctioning gauges to faulty wiring, owners often found themselves battling a cascade of issues. Adding insult to injury was the Elite's astronomical price tag. In the UK, it was significantly more expensive than competing luxury coupes from brands like Jaguar, BMW, and Mercedes-Benz. Across the Atlantic, where Lotus hoped to make inroads into the US market, the Elite's unconventional styling and reputation for unreliability made it a tough sell. Buyers seeking luxury opted for established names, while enthusiasts turned to Lotus's simpler, sportier models like the Esprit or Elan. The timing of the Elite's launch also worked against it. Introduced during the mid-1970s oil crisis, the Elite's relatively poor fuel economy, especially with the automatic transmission, made it an impractical choice. Combined with its steep initial cost and high maintenance demands, it struggled to attract a consistent customer base. Despite periodic updates and attempts to address its flaws, sales remained disappointing throughout its production run, with fewer than 3,000 units built. Today, the Lotus Elite occupies a curious place in automotive history. Among enthusiasts, it is often regarded as an intriguing failure, an example of what happens when an automaker ventures too far outside its comfort zone. Collectors generally avoid the model due to its infamous reliability issues and limited performance credentials. However, for some, the Elite's rarity and unconventional design hold a certain appeal, especially as a project car for those willing to tackle its considerable challenges. Ultimately, the Lotus Elite stands as a cautionary tale about the perils of overreaching ambition. It remains a testament to Lotus's willingness to take risks, but also to the limitations of small-scale manufacturers trying to compete in the luxury market. While other Lotus models from the era have become icons, the Elite serves as a reminder that even a brand renowned for innovation and engineering prowess can miss the mark. The Dodge Charger SE, produced between 1975 and 1978, is often remembered as a shadow of its former self. What had begun in 1966 as a stylish, powerful muscle car had, by the mid-70s, become a bloated, underwhelming luxury coupe. Reflecting the Malaise era's broader automotive trends, the third-generation Charger epitomized the compromises and challenges faced by American manufacturers during this period. While still bearing the Charger name, the SE Special Edition was a far cry from the lean and mean muscle car that had once captivated enthusiasts. The mid-1970s were a challenging time for the American auto industry. Stricter safety regulations, emissions controls, and the lingering effects of the 1973 oil crisis forced automakers to rethink their lineups. For Dodge, this meant pivoting the Charger from its muscle car roots to a more sedate, luxury-oriented offering. The Charger SE was marketed as a personal luxury coupe, a segment that had grown in popularity thanks to cars like the Ford Thunderbird and Chevrolet Monte Carlo. Unfortunately, this shift alienated many traditional Charger buyers who yearned for the raw performance of earlier models. At first glance, the Charger SE's design retained some of the visual cues associated with its muscle car heritage. It featured a long hood, fastback roofline, and distinctive opera windows on the C-pillars, giving it an air of upscale sophistication. However, the car's proportions had swelled considerably, with its curb weight approaching 4,000 pounds. This added mass, combined with softer suspension tuning, resulted in the sluggish handling and a disconnected driving experience. Enthusiasts lamented the loss of the nimbleness and road-holding prowess that had once defined the Charger. Under the hood, the Charger SE's powertrain lineup reflected the muscle car segment's steady decline. While Dodge offered several engine options, including the 225 cubic inch Slant 6 and various V8s, even the largest engines, such as the 440 cubic inch Magnum, were strangled by emissions controls. The once thrilling acceleration of earlier Chargers was replaced by lackluster performance, with even the high-output models struggling to keep pace with their predecessors. Meanwhile, the base V8 options produced modest horsepower, often making the car feel underpowered given its size. The driving dynamics of the Charger SE were another source of disappointment. The combination of its heavy weight, soft suspension, and vague steering made for an uninspiring ride. Braking performance was particularly concerning. The car's drum brakes, standard on lower trims, struggled to bring it to a halt quickly, leading to the unfortunate nickname Killer Charger among critics and drivers. While disc brakes were available, they were often overlooked by budget-conscious buyers, exacerbating the problem. Inside, Dodge attempted to position the Charger SE as a more luxurious offering. The interior featured plush carpeting, faux wood accents, and high-back bucket seats, catering to the growing personal luxury market. Optional features included air conditioning, power windows, and an 8-track stereo. However, the build quality was inconsistent, with many cars suffering from rattles, poorly fitted panels, and electrical issues. Buyers expecting a premium experience were often left disappointed by the car's lack of refinement. From a marketing perspective, Dodge faced a tough challenge. The Charger SE struggled to appeal to both its traditional muscle car audience and the personal luxury market it was trying to enter. Buyers who valued performance turned to smaller, lighter cars like the Pontiac Firebird or Chevrolet Camaro, while those seeking true luxury found better options in established models like the Lincoln Continental Mark IV or Cadillac Eldorado. Sales of the Charger SE reflected its identity crisis. While Dodge managed to sell a respectable number of units during this period, the car's reputation suffered. Enthusiasts largely dismissed it, The broader market viewed it as an uninspired, overly compromised product. By the time the third-generation Charger was retired in 1978, it was clear that the model needed a significant rethink to recapture its former glory. Today, the 1975 to 1978 Dodge Charger SE occupies an awkward place in automotive history. It is often overlooked by collectors who gravitate toward the earlier, iconic muscle car models or the radically redesigned Chargers of the 1980s and beyond. Still, for some, the SE's retro styling and nostalgic charm make it an interesting, if flawed, reminder of a transitional era in American automotive design. While it never achieved the status of its predecessors, the Charger SE serves as a cautionary tale about the dangers of diluting a strong brand identity in the face of shifting market pressures. The Plymouth Volare Roadrunner, produced between 1976 and 1980, represented a dramatic departure from the original Roadrunner's legacy. Introduced as a trim package for the Volare, a compact car intended to replace the Plymouth Valiant, the Roadrunner nameplate was tacked onto a vehicle ill-equipped to live up to its heritage as a symbol of affordable muscle car performance. What emerged was a car plagued by issues that tarnished both its own reputation and the iconic name it bore. The original Plymouth Roadrunner of the late 1960s was a legend, a no-nonsense muscle car with big power, aggressive styling, and a price tag aimed at young buyers. By the mid-1970s, however, stricter emissions regulations, rising insurance costs, and the oil crisis had eroded the muscle car market. Plymouth sought to keep the Roadrunner alive by adapting it to the compact Volare platform, hoping the name recognition would boost sales. Instead, the move alienated enthusiasts and undermined the brand. The Volare itself was introduced in 1976 as a modern alternative to the aging Valiant. On paper, it seemed promising, offering a more contemporary design, improved ride comfort, and a range of engine options. However, in practice, the Volare was riddled with quality control issues, and its reputation quickly soured. The Roadrunner trim, introduced alongside the Volare, inherited these problems while adding its own set of disappointments. Under the hood, the Volare Roadrunner offered several engine choices, from a modest slant 6 to small block V8s. The most powerful option was a 360 cubic inch V8, but even this engine, saddled with emissions restrictions, produced only 170 horsepower, a shadow of the original Roadrunner's muscle. Performance was lackluster, with sluggish acceleration and unimpressive top speeds. Buyers expecting the thrills of the 1968 Roadrunner were left disappointed by the 1976 version's tame demeanor. The Volare Roadrunner's handling was equally uninspiring. The car featured Chrysler's new transverse torsion bar front suspension, which promised a smoother ride but resulted in soft, uninvolved handling. While this setup suited the average compact car buyer, it fell short for those expecting a sporty driving experience. The heavy weight of the V8 models further exacerbated the handling issues, making the car feel clumsy in corners and slow to respond. Rust was another major problem for the Volare Roadrunner. Early models were particularly prone to severe corrosion, often within just a few years of ownership. This was partly due to cost-cutting measures in the production process, as well as insufficient rust-proofing. For buyers in regions with harsh winters or salty roads, the Volare's rust issues were a deal-breaker. Stories of fenders, door panels, and floorboards rusting out prematurely became commonplace, severely damaging the car's reputation. The styling of the Volare Roadrunner attempted to recapture the spirit of the original, with bold decals, hood scoops, and Roadrunner badging. However, these cosmetic touches felt superficial, unable to mask the car's mundane underpinnings. The once proud image of the cheeky cartoon bird and beep-beep horn now seemed out of place on a car that struggled to deliver on its performance promises. Interior quality was another weak point. The Volare Roadrunner's cabin was a mix of cheap plastics, uninspired design, and subpar assembly. Rattles and squeaks were common, and fit and finish issues plagued many examples. While it offered more creature comforts than the stripped-down muscle cars of the 1960s, these features did little to compensate for the overall lack of refinement. Despite its shortcomings, the Volare Roadrunner found buyers, largely due to its name recognition and the dwindling number of performance options available in the late 1970s. However, sales never reached the heights Plymouth had hoped for, and by the end of the decade, the Roadrunner name was again relegated to obscurity. Today, the Volare Roadrunner is often remembered as a misstep in the Roadrunner lineage. It serves as a reminder of the challenges faced by American automakers during the Malaise era and the difficulty of maintaining a performance-oriented brand identity in a rapidly changing market. For enthusiasts, it represents a missed opportunity. A car that could have carried the Roadrunner legacy into a new era, but instead became a footnote in muscle car history. The Opel Manta, produced between 1970 and 1975, was marketed as a sleek European coupe, aimed at drivers seeking an affordable alternative to more expensive sports cars. Positioned as a rival to the Ford Capri and a distant cousin to American muscle cars, it was intended to capture the spirit of performance and style in a smaller, more economical package. Unfortunately, while the Manta looked the part, it struggled to deliver on its promises, ultimately leaving a legacy more notable for its shortcomings than its successes. The Manta's styling was its most attractive feature. It sported clean lines, a long hood, and a fastback design that drew inspiration from contemporary American muscle cars like the Chevrolet Camaro. The resemblance wasn't coincidental. Opel, as a subsidiary of General Motors, sought to capitalize on the muscle car craze of the late 1960s by offering a European interpretation. However, the sporty exterior belied the car's modest mechanical capabilities. Beneath the hood, the Manta came equipped with a range of inline-four engines, the most powerful of which produced just over 100 horsepower. This was adequate for casual driving, but a far cry from the raw power associated with the muscle car image it attempted to project. The lack of performance wasn't just a matter of horsepower. The Manta's handling, while decent for its time, was not particularly sporty. The suspension was tuned for comfort rather than precision, and its steering lacked the responsiveness needed to inspire confidence on winding roads. As a result, the Manta fell short of providing the exhilarating driving experience that buyers of sporty coupes expected. It was more of a stylish commuter car than a true performer. Build quality was another area where the Opel Manta stumbled. While the car was competitively priced, cost-cutting measures were evident in its materials and construction. Interior quality was subpar, with cheap plastics and poorly assembled trim pieces that rattled and wore out quickly. Seats were not particularly supportive, and the overall cabin design, while functional, lacked the flair needed to match its sporty aspirations. On the road, the Manta was prone to squeaks and rattles, further detracting from the driving experience. One of the Manta's most notorious flaws was its tendency to rust. Opel vehicles of this era were infamous for their vulnerability to corrosion, and the Manta was no exception. In regions with harsh winters or high humidity, rust could take hold alarmingly quickly, often leading to structural issues. Even today, surviving examples of the Opel Manta from this period are rare, as many succumbed to rust long before reaching classic status. Safety was another area where the Manta fell short. While it met the basic standards of the time, it lacked advanced safety features, and its crashworthiness was mediocre at best. The thin sheet metal and limited structural reinforcements meant that occupants were at significant risk in the event of a collision. As safety standards and consumer expectations evolved, the Manta's deficiencies in this area became increasingly apparent. Despite these flaws, the Opel Manta did have a dedicated following. Its styling and affordability made it appealing to younger drivers, and its simplicity made it relatively easy to maintain. In its home market of Germany and other parts of Europe, it developed a niche fan base, particularly among enthusiasts who appreciated its potential for modification. The Manta also achieved some success in motorsport, where skilled tuning could overcome its factory shortcomings. In hindsight, the Opel Manta serves as a case study in mismatched ambitions. It promised sporty appeal and stylish looks but lacked the substance to deliver on these claims. Its underwhelming performance, questionable build quality, and rust issues undermined its potential, leaving it overshadowed by rivals like the Ford Capri. While the Manta's name would continue in later generations, the early 1970s models remain a reminder of the challenges Opel faced in trying to blend style, affordability, and performance in a single package. The Ford Mustang II Mach 1, produced from 1974 to 1978, represents one of the most controversial chapters in the Mustang's storied history. Introduced during a tumultuous period marked by the 1973 oil crisis and increasing government regulations, the Mustang II aimed to adapt to a rapidly changing automotive market. Downsized and reimagined as a more economical car, it sought to address concerns over fuel economy, emissions, and affordability. However, in the process, the Mustang II strayed far from the original pony car formula, earning its scorn from enthusiasts and critics alike. The Mustang II Mach 1, ostensibly the sporty trim level of this generation, failed to live up to the performance legacy established by its predecessors. Built on a modified Ford Pinto platform, it was significantly smaller and lighter than the first-generation Mustang. While this helped improve fuel efficiency, it also resulted in a car that lacked the presence and proportions of a true muscle car. The aggressive stance, long hood, and short deck of the original Mustang gave way to a more compact, less dynamic design that alienated fans of the brand. Under the hood, the Mustang II Mach 1 was equally disappointing. The available engines ranged from a base inline-4 to a 2.8-liter V6 and a 5.0-liter 302 cubic inch V8. While the V8 might sound promising on paper, it was severely hampered by emissions controls and low compression ratios, producing a mere 140 horsepower at its peak. For comparison, the 1969 Mustang Mach 1's V8 options started at 250 horsepower and went much higher. The anemic performance of the Mustang II Mach 1 was a stark reminder of how drastically the muscle car era had changed. The handling, another key aspect of the Mustang's appeal, was also compromised. The Pinto-based chassis was never designed for performance driving, and despite Ford's efforts to improve it, the Mustang II Mach 1 felt uninspiring on the road. Body roll, vague steering, and subpar braking undermined the car's sporty aspirations. It was adequate for commuting, but fell far short of delivering the thrilling driving experience expected of a Mustang. The styling of the Mustang II Mach 1 further compounded its woes. While Ford tried to incorporate cues from the original Mustang, such as the galloping horse emblem and faux air scoops, the overall design lacked cohesion and flair. The car appeared overly restrained, a stark contrast to the bold and muscular lines of earlier Mustangs. The Mach 1 package, which added stripes, decals, and unique wheels, did little to mask the underlying design shortcomings. Critics and consumers alike found it bland and uninspiring. One of the most damning criticisms of the Mustang II Mach 1 was that it felt like a betrayal of the Mustang's roots. The original 1964.5 Mustang had revolutionized the industry by creating the pony car segment, combining style, performance, and affordability in a package that appealed to a wide audience. The Mustang II, in contrast, prioritized economy and compliance with new regulations, alienating the very enthusiasts who had made the car a success. For many, it epitomized the decline of the muscle car in the face of rising fuel prices and government intervention. Despite these flaws, the Mustang II was not without its merits. It was one of the first cars designed with fuel efficiency and emission standards in mind, making it a practical choice for the time. Sales figures reflected this practicality. The Mustang II sold well, particularly in its first year, as buyers sought smaller, more economical cars. Its success helped ensure the survival of the Mustang nameplate during a difficult era for performance cars. In hindsight, the Mustang II Mach 1 is often seen as a necessary compromise rather than a desirable car. It was a product of its time, shaped by external pressures that forced Ford to rethink what the Mustang could be. While it may not hold the same appeal as its predecessors or successors, it serves as a reminder of the challenges automakers faced during the 1970s and the resilience of the Mustang brand. Today, the Mustang II Mach 1 is a polarizing piece of automotive history, derided by some but appreciated by others for keeping the Mustang alive during one of the darkest periods for American performance cars. The Chevrolet Monza, produced between 1975 and 1980, epitomizes a particularly turbulent time in the American automotive landscape. Born out of the need for a more fuel-efficient, compact car, In an era of high fuel prices and increasing environmental regulations, the Monza was General Motors' answer to the downsizing trend of the mid-1970s. Aimed at competing with the likes of the Ford Mustang II, the Monza represented GM's attempt to recapture the spirit of the pony car era while adapting to a world increasingly focused on fuel economy. However, despite its sleek, European-inspired styling, the Monza failed to meet the expectations of both enthusiasts and everyday drivers, offering up a frustrating blend of underperformance, poor reliability, and cramped design. The Monza's design, while ambitious, ended up being one of its most deceiving elements. Built on the platform of the Chevrolet Vega, a car that itself was notoriously unreliable, the Monza was designed to be a small, sporty coupe that would offer an exciting driving experience while also being practical for everyday use. The vehicle featured a distinctive fastback design, clearly influenced by European sports cars of the era. With smooth flowing lines and a sleek profile, the 2+2 coupe layout added a touch of versatility with a rear seat, though it was far from a comfortable or practical space for adults. The styling was appealing at first glance, giving the car an air of sophistication and sportiness that was somewhat rare in the American compact car market. Despite its striking appearance, the Monza was let down by a powertrain that struggled to deliver the excitement expected of a sporty coupe. The engine options available during the car's production years were lackluster at best. The base model came with a 4-cylinder engine, which, while efficient, was painfully underpowered for a car marketed as sporty. Its feeble acceleration made it a poor performer, even in everyday driving situations. While a V6 engine option was available for those looking for a bit more power, it still didn't measure up to competitors in terms of performance or refinement. The real disappointment, however, came in the form of the 262 cubic inch 4.3-liter V8 option, which GM marketed as a performance upgrade, but ended up being a mechanical headache. The V8, equipped with restrictive emissions controls, produced only 110 horsepower, rendering it sluggish and incapable of delivering any kind of excitement. Moreover, the engine's complexity and lack of design thought made it difficult to work on, with the cramped engine bay requiring the removal of components just to access basic engine parts like the spark plugs. Inside, the Monza continued to disappoint. While its exterior styling promised sophistication and sportiness, the interior was a letdown. The cabin was cramped, especially in the rear 2+2 configuration, where passengers found little room to stretch out. The front seats, while functional, lacked the comfort and support one might expect in a car that was marketed as a personal luxury vehicle. The interior materials were cheap and felt fragile, contributing to a sense of low quality that was hard to ignore. The dashboard and controls were utilitarian at best, with a minimalistic design that didn't offer much in terms of refinement or technology. For a car that was meant to cater to younger, budget-conscious buyers looking for a stylish ride, the Monza's interior failed to live up to the promise made by its exterior. One of the Monza's most glaring issues, however, was its reliability or lack thereof. The car's platform was shared with the Chevrolet Vega, a model that was infamous for its poor durability and tendency to suffer from rust. The Monza inherited many of the Vega's worst traits, with rust being a significant problem, particularly in regions that saw harsh winters. The Monza's thin sheet metal and poor rust proofing meant that owners were often left with a car that looked much older than it was. Furthermore, the car's mechanical components were plagued by frequent breakdowns. Engine failures, transmission issues, and electrical problems were common, making the Monza a constant source of frustration for owners. Maintenance costs were high, and the car's complexity made DIY repairs difficult. This was particularly true for the V8 engine option, which, due to its design, required a level of maintenance that many owners were ill-prepared to handle. The Monza's handling and driving experience didn't do much to make up for its performance and reliability shortcomings. Despite being marketed as a sporty alternative to larger, more bloated American cars, the Monza's handling was uninspiring. The car's suspension system, while competent for everyday driving, didn't inspire confidence in spirited driving. The car's weight distribution and underpowered engine made it feel sluggish around corners, and its overall ride quality was harsh. The Bricklin SV-1, 1974 to 1976, was a bold attempt by Canadian entrepreneur Malcolm Bricklin to enter the sports car market with a unique proposition: a safety-focused vehicle that combined high-tech features with cutting-edge design. At first glance, the SV-1 stood out with its striking gull-wing doors, distinctive plastic body panels, and futuristic styling. It was marketed as a safety vehicle, boasting reinforced doors, an impact-resistant body, and innovative safety features that were ahead of its time. But despite these ambitions, the Bricklin SV-1 quickly earned a reputation for being an unreliable, poorly built, and underperforming sports car, failing to live up to both its own promises and consumer expectations. At the heart of the Bricklin SV-1 was its engine, a 5.8-liter AMC V8, which, while offering reasonable power for a car of its size, was not well suited to the performance expectations of a sports coupe. The engine, which was mated to either a manual or automatic transmission, delivered underwhelming performance. With a 0 to 60 mph time of around 8 seconds, the SV-1 was far from the high-performance vehicles it aspired to compete with, such as the Chevrolet Corvette. The engine also suffered from reliability issues, with frequent problems such as overheating, poor fuel efficiency, and difficult maintenance. The car's performance was further hindered by its heavy build, which negated much of the potential advantages the V8 might have offered. One of the more distinctive features of the SV-1 was its body, which was constructed from fiberglass reinforced with a resin material. While the lightweight body was intended to improve safety and fuel efficiency, it ended up being a major flaw. The fiberglass was prone to cracking and warping, especially in extreme temperatures, leading to durability issues that plagued the car throughout its short production run. Additionally, the assembly process at Bricklin's factory in St. John, New Brunswick was haphazard, leading to inconsistent quality control. As a result, many SV-1s were delivered with panel misalignments, poor fitment, and a general lack of refinement. These issues not only affected the car's aesthetics, but also its overall reliability and structural integrity. Despite its claims of safety, the SV-1 was also plagued by mechanical problems, including frequent electrical failures and cooling system issues. These issues made the car prone to breakdowns. And because the Bricklin SV-1 was a relatively rare car with limited parts availability, repairs could be difficult and expensive. This lack of dependability was especially frustrating given the high price tag, which was significantly more than that of competing cars like the Corvette. For many owners, the appeal of the SV-1 quickly faded as its mechanical flaws became more apparent. In terms of driving experience, the SV-1 was a letdown as well. Despite its futuristic appearance, it lacked the agility and handling expected of a true sports car. Its heavy weight, combined with a somewhat uninspired suspension setup, resulted in a less than engaging driving experience. The car's suspension was not particularly sophisticated, and while the car could be driven at higher speeds, it never offered the sharp handling or cornering capabilities of its competitors. Its large size and weight made it cumbersome on the road, and many enthusiasts felt that the car's performance simply didn't match the expectations set by its design and marketing. The gull-wing doors, while visually striking, also proved to be a problem. They were heavy and mechanically complex, often requiring maintenance. The mechanism for opening and closing the doors was prone to failure, and when it worked, it took longer than traditional car doors to open. This made the car less practical than it appeared, particularly in tight parking situations or in the cold winters of Canada, where the vehicle was produced. The doors became more of a gimmick than a functional feature, further diminishing the car's appeal. Another problem was the production delays and low build quality. The Bricklin SV-1 was never built in large numbers, and by the time the car hit the market, it was already facing financial difficulties. Bricklin's ambitious plans for mass production and distribution faltered as the company struggled to keep up with demand, leaving many customers frustrated with long waiting times and delayed deliveries. When the cars did arrive, they often required significant repairs or adjustments before they were roadworthy. Despite all these issues, the Bricklin SV-1 did manage to attract some attention for its ambitious concept and unique design. There was a certain novelty to the idea of a safety sports car, and some people were drawn to the car's exotic looks and futuristic features. However, these initial attractions were not enough to overcome its numerous mechanical issues and underwhelming performance. The Triumph TR7 Coupe 1975 to 1981 was a bold attempt by the British car manufacturer to modernize its sports car lineup and capture the attention of the American market. With its striking wedge-shaped design, the TR7 was marketed as a futuristic, stylish, and affordable sports car, meant to challenge established models like the Datsun 240Z and the Porsche 924. While it certainly turned heads with its radical styling, the TR7's execution left much to be desired, leading to poor sales and an overall disappointing legacy for Triumph. The TR7's design and build quality. The TR7's defining feature was its angular, wedge-shaped body, which was considered a bold design choice for its time. This new look was meant to signify a departure from the more traditional, curvy lines of its predecessors like the TR6. However, the TR7 styling quickly became polarizing. While some appreciated its futuristic appearance, others felt it was too awkward and alienating, especially for a car that was supposed to embody sportiness. The sharp angles and flat surfaces made the car look more like a generic concept vehicle rather than a true sports car. Over time, the distinctive styling began to look dated, and it struggled to find widespread appeal. The quality of the TR7's build also left much to be desired. Triumph was facing financial troubles and manufacturing challenges during this period, and as a result, the TR7 suffered from significant quality control issues. Fit and finish were poor, with body panels often misaligned and paint jobs that didn't age well. Many owners reported problems with rust, particularly in areas prone to moisture, such as the wheel arches and sills. The car's build quality was further hampered by the use of subpar materials and inconsistent manufacturing processes. This led to frequent mechanical and cosmetic issues that gave the TR7 a reputation for being unreliable. Electrical and mechanical problems. One of the most notorious issues with the TR7 was its electrical system, which plagued the car throughout its production run. Many early models experienced frequent electrical failures, particularly with the wiring and the dashboard instruments. The car's electrics were prone to short-circuiting and malfunctioning, leading to frustration for owners who had to deal with flickering lights, faulty gauges, and unreliable starting. The TR7's electrical issues became so widespread that it seriously tarnished the car's reputation as a reliable and well-built machine. In terms of performance, the TR7 failed to live up to the expectations set by its sleek appearance. The car was equipped with a 2.0-liter four-cylinder engine, which produced only modest power, around 88 horsepower in the early models. This was a far cry from the strong performance offered by its competitors, such as the Datsun 240Z and the Porsche 924. With such low output, the TR7 struggled to provide the thrilling driving experience that buyers were expecting from a sports coupe. Despite its relatively low weight, the engine's lack of power resulted in sluggish acceleration and poor top-end performance, which turned off many potential customers. Handling, another critical aspect of any sports car, was also subpar. The TR7's suspension system was designed with comfort in mind rather than sharp handling, which led to a somewhat soft and imprecise driving experience. The car's steering was criticized for being vague, and the suspension didn't offer the responsiveness or agility of other more refined sports cars in the same price range. It lacked the thrill and engagement of rival models, making it feel more like a cruiser than a true sports machine. The American market and sales struggles. Triumph had high hopes for the TR7 in the American market, which was increasingly interested in smaller, affordable sports cars following the 1970s success of models like the Datsun 240Z. However, the TR7's appeal was hampered by a combination of its design flaws, poor performance, and the increasing competitiveness of the U.S. sports car market. Although the TR7 was marketed as a modern, stylish alternative to traditional British roadsters, it failed to capture the hearts of American buyers. The wedge shape, while intended to be futuristic, was too radical for many, and the car's performance was disappointing compared to rivals that offered more power and superior handling. Sales of the TR7 in the US never reached the levels Triumph had hoped for, and the car was eventually overshadowed by better performing and more reliable competitors. A short-lived legacy. While the TR7 was in production for several years, it never managed to become the icon that Triumph had envisioned. The combination of mechanical issues, build quality problems, and lackluster performance ensured that the car would never find a lasting place in automotive history. The AMC Gremlin X, 1970 to 1978, was an attempt by the American Motors Corporation, AMC, to create a compact car that would resonate with young, budget-conscious buyers during a time when small cars were gaining popularity in the United States. Positioned as a sporty variant of the standard Gremlin, the Gremlin X aimed to add some flair to an otherwise utilitarian vehicle. Unfortunately, despite its bold ambition, the Gremlin X failed to deliver on nearly every front, leaving behind a legacy marked more by its flaws than its virtues. The design of the Gremlin X was a significant sticking point from the start. Created under the constraints of AMC's limited resources, the car was essentially a shortened version of the AMC Hornet, with its rear section abruptly truncated to give it a hatchback form. While AMC intended for this to come across as a quirky and distinctive choice, the result was often described as awkward and ungainly. The proportions were unbalanced, with a long hood and a disproportionately small, squared-off rear end. The visual effect was jarring, making the car look as though it had been hastily chopped in half. The attempt to market this unconventional design as sporty clashed with public perception, and the Gremlin X quickly became a punchline in discussions about automotive aesthetics. Inside, the Gremlin X didn't fare much better. While AMC included some touches to enhance its sporty appeal, such as unique badging, racing stripes, and interior upgrades like high-back bucket seats, these features couldn't distract from the overall lack of quality. The materials used in the cabin were cheap and prone to wear, with rattles and squeaks becoming a common complaint as the car aged. Space was another issue. Although it was marketed as practical and compact, the interior felt cramped, especially in the rear, where passengers were met with limited legroom and an uncomfortable seating arrangement. Performance was another area where the Gremlin X fell short. Buyers could choose from a range of engines, starting with a 232 cubic inch inline-six and later, for those seeking more power, a 304 cubic inch V8. While the V8 option added some semblance of muscle to the car, it was hampered by the Gremlin's overall design, which failed to deliver the nimble and responsive handling expected of a sporty car. The suspension was basic and tuned for cost savings rather than performance, resulting in a bouncy and imprecise ride. The steering, too, lacked feedback, making the car feel disconnected from the road. Despite its small size, the Gremlin X felt neither quick nor agile, leaving it outperformed by many of its contemporaries. Reliability, or the lack thereof, was one of the most damning aspects of the Gremlin X. Owners frequently reported mechanical issues, ranging from engine troubles to electrical failures. The V8 engine, while adding some much-needed power, introduced its own set of complications, including overheating and difficulty with maintenance due to the cramped engine bay. Rust was another persistent issue, particularly in northern climates where road salt accelerated the deterioration of the car's thin, poorly treated body panels. For many buyers, the combination of these problems led to costly repairs and frequent trips to the mechanic, tarnishing the car's reputation even further. Safety was yet another weak point for the Gremlin X. While it was marketed as a fun and affordable car for young drivers, it lacked many basic safety features, even for its time. The car's small size and lightweight, combined with its underdeveloped safety engineering, meant that it offered little protection in the event of an accident. Critics pointed out that its crash performance was inadequate compared to other cars in its price range, leaving it poorly suited to an era when safety was becoming a greater concern for consumers. Despite its flaws, the Gremlin X was not without its supporters. Some buyers appreciated its quirky design and low price, viewing it as a budget-friendly option with a dash of personality. In later years, it gained a cult following among enthusiasts who embraced its oddball nature and nostalgic charm. However, even among its fans, the Gremlin X is often regarded as a love-it-or-hate-it car, remembered as much for its shortcomings as for its role in automotive history. In retrospect, the AMC Gremlin X serves as a cautionary tale about what happens when ambition outpaces execution. While it had the potential to carve out a unique niche in the burgeoning compact car market, it was ultimately undone by its awkward design, subpar performance, and poor reliability. Today, it stands as a reminder of AMC's struggles to compete against larger, better-funded rivals, and it occupies a curious place in automotive lore as one of the most infamous examples of style over substance. The Ford Pinto Runabout, produced from 1971 to 1980, was Ford's entry into the subcompact car market, designed to compete with smaller, fuel-efficient imports from Europe and Japan. As a hatchback coupe variant of the Pinto lineup, the Runabout was marketed as a sporty, practical, and affordable car for young buyers and small families. However, the Pinto's legacy is irreparably marred by one of the most notorious safety scandals in automotive history, and its shortcomings in design, engineering, and execution have overshadowed any potential merits it may have had. The Pinto Runabout's styling was straightforward but uninspired. Designed to be compact and efficient, the car's proportions were practical but lacked the flair needed to stand out in a competitive market. The Runabout's hatchback design did offer versatility with a foldable rear seat that expanded the modest cargo space, but this utility came at the cost of cramped rear seating and minimal legroom for passengers. The interior was similarly basic, with cheap materials and an unremarkable layout that reflected its budget-friendly price tag. Buyers looking for sporty excitement in the Runabout's design were often left disappointed. Performance was adequate for the era, but far from remarkable. The Pinto Runabout was equipped with a range of 4-cylinder engines, starting with a 1.6-liter Kent engine, borrowed from Ford's European lineup, and later larger options such as the 2.3-liter OHC engine. While these engines were designed for efficiency, they struggled to deliver spirited performance, particularly when paired with the car's outdated suspension and unresponsive handling. The Pinto's lightweight build did give it a measure of nimbleness, but the overall driving experience was dull and far from sporty, contradicting its marketed image. The Pinto's true downfall, however, was its appalling safety record. During its development, Ford engineers identified a significant flaw in the placement of the fuel tank, which was mounted behind the rear axle. In the event of a rear-end collision, the tank was vulnerable to punctures, which could lead to catastrophic fires. Internal documents revealed that Ford executives, aware of the issue, decided against redesigning the tank or adding protective measures to save costs. Instead, they calculated that paying out potential lawsuits for burn victims and fatalities would be cheaper than fixing the defect. This decision backfired spectacularly. Reports of Pinto fires began to surface, and investigations confirmed that even low-speed collisions could result in deadly fuel-fed fires. The situation escalated when a memo detailing Ford's cost-benefit analysis was leaked, sparking public outrage and damaging the company's reputation. The Pinto became a symbol of corporate negligence, and its safety issues were highlighted in government investigations, lawsuits, and media reports. Despite attempts to address the problem with safety recalls and modifications, the damage to the Pinto's reputation was irreversible. The Pinto Runabout also faced criticism for its overall build quality. Like many budget cars of the 1970s, it suffered from rust problems, especially in regions with harsh winters and road salt. Owners frequently reported mechanical issues, including engine failures, transmission problems, and electrical faults. These reliability concerns, combined with the safety scandal, made the Pinto one of the most derided cars of its time. The Pinto's infamy overshadowed the car's initial success in the marketplace. In its early years, the Pinto sold well thanks to its low price, compact size, and decent fuel economy, particularly during the 1973 oil crisis. For many buyers, it was a practical choice for navigating the challenges of rising fuel prices and economic uncertainty. However, as the safety scandal unfolded, the Pinto's sales plummeted, and its reputation was irreparably tarnished. By the time production ended in 1980, the Pinto had become synonymous with automotive failure and corporate greed. In retrospect, the Ford Pinto Runabout is remembered less as a car and more as a case study in the ethics of cost-cutting and risk management. Its flawed design and the decisions made by Ford executives not only cost lives, but also sparked a broader conversation about corporate responsibility and consumer safety. Today, the Pinto stands as a stark reminder of the consequences of prioritizing profits over people, and its legacy remains one of the most infamous chapters in automotive history. The Chevrolet Vega GT, produced between 1971 and 1977, was the sporty coupe variant of Chevrolet's Vega lineup, a series of compact cars designed to compete with rising imports from Japan and Europe. Promoted as a sleek, affordable alternative for younger buyers, the Vega GT initially generated excitement with its sporty styling and innovative engineering. However, it quickly became infamous for a host of catastrophic quality control issues, turning it into one of the most disappointing vehicles of the 1970s and a symbol of Detroit's struggles to adapt to changing market demands. The Vega GT's design was its most appealing aspect. Its clean lines, long hood, and fastback profile gave it a modern, athletic look. Optional trim packages added sporty accents such as stripes, mag-style wheels, and upgraded interior features, enhancing its curb appeal. Inside, the GT attempted to deliver a more premium experience than the base Vega, with a sportier dashboard, bucket seats, and optional instrumentation. Unfortunately, the visual allure masked deeper flaws that would soon become apparent. Under the hood, the Vega GT was powered by a 2.3-liter aluminum inline-4 engine that Chevrolet touted as advanced for its lightweight construction. However, this engine became the car's Achilles heel. The Vega's aluminum block lacked iron cylinder liners, instead relying on a unique silica treatment on the cylinder walls to reduce wear. While innovative in theory, this design proved problematic in practice. Poor quality control during manufacturing led to uneven coatings, which caused the engine to wear out prematurely. Overheating was another chronic issue, exacerbated by inadequate cooling and the tendency of the head gasket to fail. As a result, the engine often burned oil excessively, leading to visible smoke and embarrassing reliability problems for owners. The Vega GT's mechanical woes didn't end with the engine. Its suspension and handling were underwhelming, with a soft, unsporty ride that failed to live up to the car's sporty image. The Vega's braking system, though adequate on paper, often suffered from fade under repeated use. Combined with lackluster acceleration and limited power output, these flaws made the driving experience uninspiring, particularly when compared to competitors like the Ford Pinto and imported rivals such as the Toyota Corolla or Datsun 510. Rust was perhaps the Vega's most infamous issue. Chevrolet's cost-cutting measures included using low-quality steel and applying minimal rust-proofing. As a result, the Vega was highly susceptible to corrosion, especially in humid or snowy climates. Reports of severe rust damage emerged within just a few years of ownership, with some cars experiencing structural failure as early as 30,000 miles. Wheel wells, door panels, and even the unibody frame often succumbed to rust, turning the Vega into a poster child for poor durability. The Vega GT's reliability problems extended to its overall build quality. Owners frequently reported misaligned panels, loose trim, and electrical faults. Recalls plagued the Vega lineup, including one for faulty engine mounts that could cause the engine to shift during operation. By the mid-1970s, the Vega's reputation for unreliability was firmly entrenched, and Chevrolet struggled to stem the tide of negative press. Despite these issues, Chevrolet made efforts to improve the Vega GT throughout its production run. Later models introduced better rust-proofing techniques and optional features, like a steel sleeve version of the aluminum engine. However, these fixes came too late to salvage the car's reputation. Sales declined steadily as word spread about its myriad problems, and by the time the Vega was discontinued in 1977, it had become a cautionary tale about the dangers of rushing innovative designs into production without sufficient testing. The Chevrolet Vega GT remains one of the most maligned cars in American automotive history. Its combination of stylish design and cutting-edge engineering was undermined by shoddy execution, turning what could have been a game-changer for Chevrolet into an industry punchline. Today, the Vega GT serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of prioritizing cost-cutting and production speed over quality and reliability. For Chevrolet, it marked a low point that the company would struggle to recover from in the years to come.